May 2nd here at the Proving Grounds 2, and I'm really excited about today because we're going to talk about the release process and food plots and bring in some real experts. Got the folks from Ward Lab here. Of course, they're a very big soil lab, know a lot more about all this than I do. So we're going to do a deep dive into our food plots today. We're going to collect soil samples. We're going to collect some forage samples, and we're going to talk about what I need to do and share with you to make my food plots better. If you've been watching Growing Deer a while, you know my friends, but Mick and Ryan and Dr. Patrick Freeze, we've actually been buddies for a while and talking, but these people really, their job is, of course, at Ward Labs, soil science, soil health. They help big time farmers, not just deer people. So today I want to do a deep dive into this field and all our plots. We're on Proving Grounds 2, so we haven't had that many plots here yet. This is a fall release blend. Deer have consumed a lot of it. Had kind of a tough winter, a lot of deer in here eating on it. And so, of course, the rye bolton got ahead of it. But as we're going out today, just start pouring into all of us, you know, the audience and I, teach us how we can be better stewards of this resource. And to that means, of course, we all want to see deer. It's got to be attractive, right? Can't plant something that doesn't attract deer. That's not good for a deer hunter. And we got to not run out of food midsummer, getting ready to plant our summer crop. It doesn't do any good to, boy, this looks great. And June 2nd, we're like, oh, it's just dirt out here. And I want to improve the soil. I don't want to be buying tons and tons of fertilizer. I may need some to get started, but I want to improve my soil so I get on a system where that's going down through time, or even like some of our fields where we don't have to apply it anymore.
Yeah.
Man, I got to tell you, off camera, we've been doing a lot, but we're going to bring it back on camera here. And Patrick and I are going to pull a soil sample. We're going to do all of our plots, but we won't show them all. Of course, you'd be bored with that. And if you want to see how the right technique, Patrick, we did that, what, last year, wasn't it?
Yep.
We'll have a link to that in the description. So if you don't know the proper technique to pull a sample and how to kind of spread it out across the field, make sure you're getting an appropriate sample, right?
Yeah, just an even distribution. So you get like a representative soil sample that will represent the whole area.
So I'll be the grunt and you can be the source of education. We'll pull some samples here.
But you don't want to record the depth. You should be able to get enough to get a good, decent sample. That's not too bad.
Oh, look at that one. Oh man, I didn't even have to jump on that one. Much taller vegetation here, the clover's taller, and my probe went in without me jumping on it. This is a much darker, larger sample. I think the real point here is, that was from looking at it, ocular estimate, much better soil quality, and the vegetation is taller, bigger stems, the clover is much more productive. But you can make this whole field like that over some rotations of good blends, and them doing their magic in the dirt, which you're going to teach us about later. We can even out the quality of the soil across this field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so with the diverse blends, you really can build up the organic matter and the soil quality, and so you really reduce your inputs with that with time. If you could improve one thing, it would be the organic matter, mostly because, and not just any organic matter, the quality of organic matter, mostly because the better quality of organic matter, which is built up from a diverse blend and by microbes in the soil, it really supplies the nutrients and quality nutrients, and that's going to help reduce your inputs and also produce better food plot quality with time.
Which results in better quality deer, better quality forage, whatever consumes that. Us as a consumer, wildlife as a consumer, is healthier and can express more of our or their potential.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Organic matter is, there's a lot of definitions for it, but if you look at a soil, it really is sort of the brown components, if you want to think of it that way. It's the broken down plant matter, but also the microbes. You can't see the microbes. You can see the plant matter breaking down, but the microbes are doing a lot of that. Really a big chunk of organic matter, what we know of, is mostly microbes. So to really do that, you need a lot of that activity in the soil, and you do that with diverse mixes above ground.
So let's talk about microbes for deer dummies like me. Microbes are bacteria, basically, protozoas, bacteria, stuff like that. You probably remember that from 7th grade biology like I do. And they live and die quickly.
Yeah.
These are not 5.5 year old. Oh man, I got Boone and Crockett bacteria. That thing's 5.5 years old, right? These are, some of them are seconds, literally.
Yeah.
And they're reproducing all the time, and the better habitat we provide for them, shaded, different plant species, because they're feeding from stuff that leaks out of plant roots, called exudates. Better habitat, the faster that microbe population multiplies and grows, which in turn improves the soil, which in turn improves the plants.
Exactly, yeah. So you really need some main components to really facilitate that, or provide the conditions for the microbes to really kind of ramp up and build that organic matter for you. Break down the plant biomass, the plant matter, so that you can reduce your fertilizer inputs. A lot of those things are, even temperatures. You don't want the soil too hot, and you do that with cover, so this is perfect. Then also moisture, which the cover also helps keep into the soil. And
because it's reducing evaporation.
Exactly, yeah.
A lot of people see this big crop, think, oh my gosh, you're drying out your soil. It's taking moisture out of soil, which is true to some extent, but I've read research, and you confirm this, that we're actually saving more by shading the soil versus what the plant is taking out.
Exactly, yeah. So if you have bare soil, a lot of that moisture is just coming out.
It's evaporating.
Exactly, yeah. And that's, an input if you have to use irrigation. A lot of, I guess, food plotters, it's just rain-fed systems for the most part. But you want to hold that moisture in, because that water is kind of how the microbes move around and do their work. So you need even temperatures, moisture, and you need carbon or organic matter. That comes from the plant matter. But then also the root exudates, that diverse mix below ground is provided by the roots. They'll pump a lot of these, what is essentially a sugar for a microbe, makes them go crazy. Their numbers ramp up, and that's what's really kind of building up that really quality organic matter. So the above ground diversity fosters the below ground diversity and the quality organic matter in the soil.
So that's just another component of something I like to teach on, is there is no magic bean. There's no one plant that's going to feed all the microbes. Microbes, we're talking, thousands of species, not 5.
Yeah.
In any soil, or any healthy soil. So there's no one plant that feeds all those microbes. But if you got a blend, that really serves those populations better.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the same as if you ate one kind of plant all the time. You wouldn't terribly be, that healthy.
Right.
So if you have a lot of different plants, you have a lot of different exudates and a lot of different microbes coming in, and that really improves the quality of everything.
Faster,
much faster.
Blends can be used, I'm asking you true or false here. We're going to play true or false now.
Okay.
Blends can be used to improve soil way faster than any single species crop.
True, that's very true. In fact, you can't do it without a blend, I would say.
I was going to flip that around. If you were on a standard corn soybean rotation here, that's all, no fall cover crops, just corn, next year soybeans, corn, soybeans. Even if we no-tilled, corn, soybeans, we're going to make limited progress, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah. Because you're only promoting a very small amount of those microbes with those rotations, and you're not getting, the really good organic matter buildup because it needs that diversity above ground and below ground.
So you and I have both said organic matter a bunch of times in the last 5 minutes, right? Let's just take a pause here, because, and I've been guilty of this in the past myself. You've helped me understand, but I look out here, it's like a sea blowing, right? I mean, the wind's blowing, it's gentle, and it looks like the prairie blowing behind us here, right? People go, oh my gosh, they got tons of organic matter. But I've read that about 70% of the organic matter you and I are talking about in the soil is actually below ground in the root system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
So it's cool to look at what's up top and see a deer feeding out here, or waves of grain blowing, but really we're interested in roots.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because in that root zone is where a lot of that action is really going on. It's almost like a little city around the root area.
Yeah.
A lot of the currency exchange is the exudates, the carbon. So the microbes come in because of that. They're breaking stuff down. Their numbers are building up, and they're like little sacks of fertilizer, essentially. And so they're kind of building up the quality of that organic matter with their numbers.
Yeah, and if you want to go deeper into that, Patrick knows all this too, but if you want to go deeper, Keith Berns has a seminar on YouTube that's called Carbonomics, like economics. That's really good. We'll put a link in the description. And if you really want to dive even deeper into this, it's about an hour long or so. Man, that does a really good job of explaining what we're talking about with the roots and the microbes and trading. They're actually trading because photosynthesis, sunshine, and these are photosynthesized right now, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, right now, it's perfect photosynthesis weather, basically. Yep. And that's making carbon. C6H12O6 is a simplified example of what's going on there.
Yeah, exactly.
And that C6 is 6 carbons. Microbes living in the dark down there, they're not photosynthesizing.
Yep.
They can't make carbon. So the economy that Keith talks about is the plants making carbon, pumping it to the roots. You've heard us talk about carbon exudates, or plants leaking stuff out. That's the formulation of a carbonic acid, in a fancy term. Dr. Freeze here, fancy term. And granted, biologist just says it's leaking out some carbon. The microbes can't get that, so they trade the plant phosphorus or zinc or whatever the plant needs. And the plant knows what it needs, so it sends signals out. This sounds like space science, but it's not. It sends signals out, and the microbes actually go in and out of the root and trade. That's the economy Keith is talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so cool. I mean, it is so cool. I wish I'd learned this in college, but I didn't. I was not taught anything like this. And that's what's making these old rocky soils, because folks, set timber and gnarly stuff right behind us, and we've cut all the cedars. There was cedars all through there, and we've just cut and burned it. But this was just mainly cedars and some hardwoods, and we dozed it all down to make a food plot and burned it. This was like a moonscape. 5 years ago, this looked like the surface of the moon. Like Elon was gonna land a rocket right here. And now it's somewhat productive.
Oh, very, very productive.
My daughter tagged a big old whopping buck out here a couple years ago, so it's serving our purpose.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, Moultrie Mobile, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, RTP Outdoors, Fourth Arrow, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Ward Laboratories, Berns Optics, National Land Realty, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
So today we're going to go take a 20-inch by 20-inch square cutting of all of the cover crop that's currently standing, as well as the mulch. That way we are going to find out our tons per acre and use that as our biomass indicator. So basically find out how many nutrients are in our current growing crop and find out how many will be recycled throughout the year. Okay. Right in here, okay?
Yep.
All right. Right here.
We call this the release process. Of course, this was the fall release from green cover seed, and deer have removed brassicas, radishes, and turnips, and some of the other species are in here. So we're not even seeing the full biomass that was produced, because that's in a deer's belly or in a fawn or growing antler right now. So we're taking what's here right before the planting season, because we're going to plant and then use a crimper to terminate this, and this will be laying on the ground, and microbes or bacteria slowly decompose this and turn into fertilizer for the next crop. So it's not a true measurement of everything we grew, because part of that's in a deer out there, right? Or a turkey or something. But it is a measurement of what's going to be available for the next food plot crop. And I'm trying not to cheat, so I'm taking the stems that aren't part of my sample out of the way. And then I bend this, because this was literally 5-6 feet tall, so it'll fit in our bucket here. And so there's a little bit of a debate among people. Do we take this mulch from last year's crop, or do we not? And I'm thinking there's still a little bit of nutrient value in there, so it might as well go in the bucket, because it's still breaking down. Now, the part of me doesn't want to. I don't like any bare soil, so I hate to leave a 2-foot bare strip out in my field. And the other thing I think that's important to say is, and I'm sure I can't do it, but I'm going to pull one up right beside it. So Mick cut some of this stuff off, but all these roots are still in the soil. And of course, when the plant's terminated, all that biomass is staying in the ground. And these roots are nutrient rich, right, Mick?
Yep, that's exactly
So this is more fertilizer for the next crop that we're not monitoring, because when I pulled this out, you probably couldn't hear on the mic, but it's going, because I'm ripping off all the little hair roots that are really nutritious. They're staying in soil. So not an easy way to get a true sample of that. It'd be biased, so we're going to leave those in there. But whatever the results come back, it's actually a bit more nutrients available for the next crop because of the below ground part.
Yep, exactly.
There we go. Getting all that mulch there as much as I can.
I think another really important observation while we're here is I talk about, go ahead, Mick, and Deer eat roughly about 5% of their body weight a day. This kind of varies, you know, in some factors. So let's just use an average of 5% their body weight a day. Let's take, for me, easy math, 100-pound doe or 100-pound deer average. Fawns are smaller, bucks are bigger. So let's call average 100 pounds. That varies Florida to New York, right? So 5% a day, and that's dry weight, all the moisture taken out. Y'all will take this back to the lab, put it in bags, put it in the oven, and bake all the moisture out, right? That's what a deer does. It's gonna excrete or urinate out or salivate out or something, all the moisture. Well, gosh, I don't know. We got ounces of stuff in here, right? Not even a pound of vegetative material. So look at all that, and a deer's got, and that's got moisture in it. A deer needs about a 100-pound deer, about 5 pounds. We're not even close to picking 5 pounds. So think about how big the tub would be to represent what one deer needs each day, 365 days out a year. And that's why we want our food plots really super productive to produce a lot of tons. Remember, the clovers and all the things that are really palatable in here have been browsed off already. So we're not seeing a true measure of production, but for you guys and gals at home, your food plots need to be really productive. That's why we choose to work with the folks at Ward Lab, because I need this to produce as many tons. I'm in the Ozark Mountains. It's steep, it's rocky. I don't have a lot of food plot acres. No. On 800 acres right now, I have 27 acres of food plots. So not a lot. I need each acre cooking with gas. So Patrick, bring it on, buddy. Help me out here. But that's ounces. We need probably 20 times that amount if that's ounces. If I'm being gracious.
Yes.
If that's 4 ounces, I need 20 times that amount.
For those at home interested in this test, if you have like a gallon-sized Ziploc baggie, those work great. So the plastic bag we prefer over the paper bag for the cover crop nutrient analysis, specifically because when that sample is coming in, we want to get a wet weight of that sample, a true wet weight. So in a paper bag, things will start to dry out, whereas in a plastic bag, it'll hold the moisture long enough for us to get that sample and prepare it and make sure that you get all of the data that you're looking for.
It just has
All right.
pollen, yeah. Is that what I'm seeing?
Those are all ready.
So we call this Slab Town because there's big slab rock over there. And that, if we walk out here, there's just exposed big slab rock like that in here. And like right here, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just, when I've done, so you can see all the marks where drills hit that rock. Like, you didn't believe me till I showed you that. And then here, and here, and here, and here, it's just slab rock out through here. So, am I, you know, Mick and Ryan and Patrick, am I expecting too much, or can I get more growth than this out of this?
I would say, well, looking at your other plots and the amount of rocks and how shallow the soil is, this is very productive. I mean, even a lot of meadows don't have this much growth. I would say it's good to have high expectations, especially if you are taking more of a, you know, a soil health approach to this. Because you can't, I don't think you'll damage the system. You will improve the soil one way or another. And as long as you're not over-fertilizing or even applying a lot of synthetic material, I'd say your expectation should be quite high.
If you're going into summer, we're going into, you know, we're going to plant, we think, in a week or so, somewhere like that. And, you know, we got this on here. It's not real dense, obviously you can see me through it easily. Would you add synthetic fertilizer, or would you just use a full release process and let this cook?
I would go with the full release at first. Usually spot treating or spoon feeding with a little bit of fertilizer is, I would say, optimal, or, you know, advised if you're really struggling to get things up and running. But I would say I would go with the full release, a good diverse mix, because also if you over apply fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers, you actually can damage the organic matter, because the microbes, they need a balance of carbon and nitrogen. So you're applying a lot of nitrogen, so they eat the carbon, which is the organic matter. So they're essentially tearing down their house to process everything that's coming in.
So when you look at, I just pulled this up right here, a little, looks like oats. You know, why do you, except all the rocks in here, I mean, it's just, what can you, share with me, teach me.
No, the roots, the
Yeah,
fine.
is there anything in there that is bad, good? Is this all little fine roots? And we're not seeing any fungus in there, are we? I know it's really hard to see.
Yeah, I don't see any. Usually the fine hair roots is really what kind of pops out at me, because that really shows that the roots are working, the exudates are coming out to kind of really expand that whole network, and that really builds up the organic matter and the soil health and quality.
I think a lot of people that don't shake the dirt off don't realize the amount of root content down there.
There's a lot of roots down there.
Yeah.
And I think you've done such a good job of conditioning the system to live and produce that you can get more creative with your diverse mixes and be able to say, hey, I can experiment a little bit more and not have to use synthetic fertilizer so much, because it clearly with all these rocks you've managed to produce a very diverse, thick.
I mean, some farmers would even consider that a good yield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let alone in a little rocky, less than 1/10 of an acre food plot.
Oh, yeah.
Deer browse here like crazy. I mean, this is like a putting green, when they're really on it, it doesn't get much chance to grow. It's just so small.
Yeah.
A lot of the soil health work that people are doing nowadays will show that whatever you're producing, crop or cover crops or anything, if you're not using a lot of synthetic material, you have a much more nutrient dense material in most crops. I mean, this is just preliminary research, but the same would apply for this forage and food plots. So I would say this is the best approach for both soil health and also food plot growth.
So just make sure I'm, understand you, and this has been sure, but this was clover a couple weeks ago, really lush and succulent. Deer bites this because the system is getting more nutrients, he or she, sorry, Mick, getting more nutrients per bite than if I'd potentially heavily fertilized this and wiped out all the microbes. And I think you're going to agree with me on this. That's what's happening to our human food system too, right? We're eating all this heavily fertilized tomatoes, bell peppers, whatever we're eating. And that's research is showing that's going back to a lot of childhood diseases and our stuff because we're not getting the full nutrient complement.
Yeah, and those regenerative systems, if you let the plant just kind of do its own thing, the way nature's supposed to do it, they produce a lot of the compounds or chemicals that we benefit from.
Yeah.
So in a heavily managed system, a conventional system, you don't get that because they don't have to do any work for it. So it's the same with food plots, is if you let it grow naturally like this and manage it, not overmanage it, you do get a better quality product.
Yeah. And folks, that's why, and I knew that. I was trying to lead him to say that because Dr. Freeze, says that everyone believes him. Grant says, that's just old ball up. You don't know what he's talking about. But so when you have a pretty native system like we have, we've been doing a lot of fire, good native vegetation, some food plots thrown in, small percent, and deer eating this. And they've never been vaccinated for anything or wormed or not walking through poop a foot deep at a slaughter yard because there's not that many deer out here. That's really high quality human food versus going to Stuff Mart and, buying a ribeye that's got orange paper on the outside so it looks like red meat and you rip it off, it looks kind of pale or something. So, harvest that venison and use it for your family. We can share links on how to process deer if that's something you're new to, and enjoy that part of creation because when you're photosynthesizing, you got to blend, that's just replicating a native prairie. When we do all this, that's a great way for us to experience creation, watching soil improve, and benefit from it by consuming that. But if we want to get the most benefit, of course, we need to consume the Word and apply that to our lives daily. And that's how we build that relationship with the Creator. So take some time to enjoy creation. More importantly, take time every day to visit with the Creator and seek His will. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.